Good evening, Bulls fans. I know you've been breathlessly waiting for the 9-minute delayed Bulls and Beers in advance of this weekend's football game against Reno. Uh, guess what? To the surprise of everyone, Grant Rohak is still on the radar. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about other things. I'll turn it over to our blog father, Tim.
I like that. I'll never get tired of the blog father. Um, so it was a good week to have off because we needed the week to recover from Albany, and then on top of that, there was some interesting things that softened the blow. One was watching this week's opponent get completely stomped by Notre Dame, and I still believe Notre Dame should not be a ranked team. Every year they start 10 or so and slowly fall their way off, and I think this will be another year. But the big thing I saw was two other MAC schools losing to FCS schools. And I haven't ever looked into this before because during my tenure as a real fan, we've never lost to one. But it actually happens quite a bit. A Ball State fan who happens to run a very prominent blog poked fun at me on an email list today about Albany. And I went back and looked and realized they only win about 2 out of every 3 of their FCS games. So it happens. We've actually been quite blessed for the past 8 years or so of stomping our opponents, or usually stomping them. So, I don't know if you guys watched the Kent game or not, but that was a fun game to watch in overtime, and I think Kent kind of got jobbed on that last drive. Did any of you guys happen to watch that one?
Nope.
Nope.
3 pass interference calls on the last possession, and 2 of them were borderline. And one of them was just not even pass interference. It wasn't even close. And that was on 4th down. And then I forget who they were playing, North Carolina A&T, then went on to score on the next play, I think, and won that. But so we are not the only beat-up people. Bowling Green barely escaped North Dakota comeback. I think Bowling Green won 27-26, and this is not NDSU, the Bison. This is North Dakota, not nearly the caliber of FCS team that people usually talk about when they talk about North Dakota. So 2 weeks off. We've watched some other MAC teams lose to FCS games, and Albany's starting to wear off, and I'm getting eager to watch games again. And then, as Matt said, we heard Monday that Rohak is going to be starting again, probably starting. We'll use both quarterbacks, and I don't have a starter, was kind of the exact same thing we heard last week. So I'm still in shock from that. You guys, thoughts? Anyone jump in? I'm in Rohak shock here. Robbie, I'm going to make you answer.
I'm not really pleased. Tyree was definitely the better quarterback in that last game, and I feel like he won the starting spot just based off of that. Like, I don't mind them playing 2 quarterbacks still. It's just I feel like Tyree should be the one that starts it off, and if he's hot, from the gun, keep him out there.
Well, it's yes and no. The only thing I'll say is this is definitely Lance Leipold putting himself out there. He really is. I mean, he has every reason in the world to start Tyree, and to only play Tyree. I mean, we've talked about it a lot the last couple of weeks, where this is probably not a bowl team. Losing to Albany really is going to make getting 6 or 7 wins difficult this year for this team. So it's not a bowl team. He could have developed it, but we're going to start the 5th-year senior. So that I'm assuming they think there's hope for this season yet. And if we beat Nevada, to be fair, a lot of us have had us losing this game in the preseason. So if we come together and beat Nevada, we're kind of right back where I think a lot of us thought we would be. Did any of you guys have us beating Nevada when the season started? They are 10-point favorites, which I think is a little higher during the season they've had, but it's a home game for them. 10.5, yep.
But that was before they struggled against Cal Poly. And I originally thought 2-2 with a win against Army and Albany. But Army's starting to look good this year. Graduated a lot on their defense.
I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but Army looks good in the way that, like, if we had sensible play calling, we could beat them, and namely that their defensive line is undersized, and if we would just run it down their throats to the left side of our line with Jordan Johnson, we could beat them, but that also was a way that we could have beaten Albany, and you'll remember that we didn't beat Albany.
Oh, we'll run it.
So,
We'll just do a draw play to start out each drive.
I'm not going to. I just don't understand. I gotta be honest. I am taking very little hope from the Cal Poly game against Nevada. I watched that Notre Dame game in its entirety, and yeah, they got spanked, but I think that a lot of plays that were unsuccessful for Nevada were unsuccessful because they were playing a team with athletes like Notre Dame has and is able to recruit. And I think they're plays that could be successful against a team that's a half step slower, a half step, the windows are a half step wider, things like that. I really watched that game against Notre Dame and thought it was a team that looked a lot better than what I think Buffalo brings. And I think the 10.5 line is about in line with what I think is appropriate based on what I watched. And of course, I have not watched the Cal Poly game, so maybe they were much improved over that.
So are they still running the pistol, Matt? Because I know they had a change at offensive coordinator.
I think they've left the pistol without Chris All. They looked a little bit more, at least the running game looked a little bit more traditional, pro set, if not I formation, like not the pistol basically. I didn't see as much of the passing game. I didn't watch it with much attention to like actually think about scheme and how our matchup would go. I just kind of watched. Their blocking was sound. Their plays succeeded and plays failed, but there was never a play that was like, why the hell did you call that play? There was never a play where I was like, that was a stupid penalty. I shouldn't use the word stupid. That was a penalty that makes no sense and is totally avoidable in this situation.
This is a safe space. You can say stupid.
I can, but I've pulled it back already. It wasn't any specific thing. It wasn't, oh, I'm watching this happen and that matchup's going to be difficult for us. It was, they look more disciplined. They look like a more experienced, more team with better chemistry. And things that weren't working against Notre Dame didn't look like they were getting blown up from a totally hapless team that didn't know what they were doing against Notre Dame. They looked like a team that was not as good as Notre Dame, and Notre Dame was making the plays that Notre Dame should make with the physical advantages and superior athletes that they have. And I watched that game, and I don't have a lot of hope despite the scoreline. And I really think that 10. I mean, I'm repeating myself at this point. It wasn't anything specific because I honestly wasn't watching the game with that much intensity to pick things out like that. But I just got a vibe of like, this is a team that has its stuff together, and right now they're getting beaten by a better team. But I don't think that we are clearly a better team than Nevada, even if like we had beaten Albany 30-10. I think we'd be a team that would need some breaks, would need some smart playing calling, would need to minimize mistakes, and like that's the big thing is minimizing mistakes both from the sideline and inside the side, on the field.
So no -4 turnover ratio then.
Yeah, no -4 turnover ratio. If you've got an offensive line that can block for Jordan Johnson, you've got Jordan Johnson who can average 5 yards per carry. Like, use that. That's what I have.
Right. It's up to Kodaloki to scheme for that defense.
Yeah.
So, okay, Kevin, what about you?
Okay. I'm holding cautious optimism about the game. Like, I was all for Tyree. I hopped on the Tyree bandwagon. That was me last week, was basically my whole point. So I feel like with Rohak coming out, the team's going to be uninspired in a way. Just, you saw it when they came out against Albany. There wasn't that fire. And I don't know if we're going to see that fire again. The fire started when Tyree came in. You felt you could feel the dynamic change. So if we don't have the fire, if we do the two quarterbacks, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic we can compete, but realistically, I don't know if we can.
Yeah, it was interesting that there was literally no changes in the depth chart at all. And last year Leipold did change the depth chart here and there, so I know he doesn't by default just copy his previous depth chart, but one would think with 2 weeks off and the abysmal performance we had against Albany, somewhere
that really just bolsters the very scary thought in my head that when he was talking about we really view the week 2 bye as a chance to extend our summer, like it just makes it look like that was more and more really what was being thought. and it's like we're in a big hole now after week 1. If there's no change, apparently, like if you think about what would have to happen, even if you were super reticent to change the depth chart, what would have to happen for there to be any change whatsoever? I would think the first loss to an FBS team in 13 years, and there's no change, and that just to me makes it seem more plausible that like that kind of reading between the lines that we were doing was accurate in the sense that we're treating this stretch before the bye as just a continuation of camp. And I think there's no way for us to ever know if that's true, or
Well, I mean,
know
is
how.
that troubling or is that comforting?
It's troubling to me.
Let me.
It's troubling to me.
Well, I mean, it's troubling to me from saying, you never take any opponent lightly. And it's comforting in saying we didn't really prepare for that game and we're a better team than we saw. Hopefully a much better team than we saw. It's one of those things. It depends on if you're a glass half full, glass half empty, or a glass thrown against the wall, shattered kind of person.
I mean, I watch the total PR and morale hit we've taken in the public eye as a result of that game, and I think to say, oh, we didn't prepare for it because we're going to do this or that with our season was just a huge mistake from a marketing standpoint. And you need to think about that when you are a team with the finances that we are.
Yeah.
You can't let up on any game because if they have the Stony Brook game, fine, but people will forget. People outside of our site don't remember exactly how bad the Stony Brook game was, but people outside of our site will remember that, oh, they couldn't even beat Albany, why should we take them seriously? Against other teams that we're not excited to go see, like Kent State.
I remember that Liberty took Ball State to town in 2011.
Mm-hmm. And I think that makes you more. I think this will make you happy to hear me say this. I think that makes you more of a fan of Ball State football than 80% of the people who follow Ball State football.
Really taking liberty with the word fan there, Matt.
Yeah,
know thine enemy. But what I mean to say is I'm pretty informed on what goes around the MAC. I don't intricately follow the inner workings of every team, but the Saturday developments I've always followed. And I had to, like I said, when I had that mail exchange earlier, which was funny, he was just me and him poking fun at each other. I had to really think back to who did they lose to? And the only reason I remember Liberty is I made a joke about how they couldn't do a victory together, right? Because it was Liberty. Kind of a Footloose type deal.
I didn't get the joke at all.
Okay, I had to explain it to Matt. I'm assuming our other two guys here are way too young to remember that.
I know Footloose. I just didn't understand the connection.
That's the only reason I remember. So I don't know, Matt. I don't know if you're right. In 3 or 4 years, if we don't, completely tank over the next couple years, I think this will be just a bad memory. I think the challenges this year, I'm not too worried about what this does to the long-term finances or reputation of the football program. How many people are talking about Colgate today? The only reason Colgate got talked about in the past 5 years is because we lost to Albany. That's it. No one's talked about Colgate in forever. Yeah,
but okay. Let me reframe this, and I need to not drag this out to be the whole show.
No, drag it out. I got nothing.
If we go on and have a successful season because we didn't prepare at all for Albany, which is what you're suggesting is a glass half full way of looking at it, we have lost out on a ton of potential fans who are no longer interested because we lost them at Albany. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I think November Maction will always do more damage to your fan base than a loss to an FCS team.
Fair enough.
Seriously.
Yeah, but that game also is that game is also the first impression for a lot of people with UB Athletics because it's the first home game of the season for football.
Yeah.
Your first revenue sport.
I don't know. Matt, you and I are born Buffalonians. Are we the only born Buffalonians on the podcast here? Kevin, I don't know quite. Where are you from, Kevin?
I'm from Rochester, so I'm close, but not Buffalo.
No, you're not a Buffalonian. You're a Genesean. Robbie, where are you from again?
From the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
That's
Well,
all that
sometimes
man-
that could describe Buffalo, but you're not from Buffalo.
As a Buffalonian, as a fellow Buffalonian, I don't. I think the city's psyche has been so insulated against losing.
That's true.
I mean, we were joking about this around the water cooler. It's been 17 years since the Bills have been to the playoffs. It took when the Bills went to their first Super Bowl, it had been 25 years. So it's plausible that it'll be another 25 years between their last playoff bid and their next playoff bid, which is something. So I don't know. I'm not too worried. Maybe you guys are right. Maybe I'm just, for once in my life, the optimist in the room. I think if UB starts winning games, this will be looked at like any other program that loses FCS games, and they happen about 20% of the time. If we take Nevada to the woodshed, honestly, all's forgiven, in my opinion. Matt, I agree with you that the trend of overlooking an FCS foe is a troubling one, and I think it would probably be one that would not be repeated by this coaching staff ever again because of some terse words I'm sure they heard from their boss during the week. But really, this is kind of the restart of the season. The Bulls have a chance to go in and play Nevada, and if they win, they're where everyone expected them to be, 1-1 after 2 weeks. To do that, they're going to have to deal with James Butler. I'm a lot more concerned about how our defense is going to perform than our offense.
I'm concerned
And
about
I
Marcus
know that's-
McGill's neck. That's the only thing I'm concerned about. Marcus McGill's neck. Just keep him away from linebackers. Sorry, I'm in a mood today, and I don't want Marcus McGill to get killed by a Nevada linebacker because he almost did that.
Yeah,
he didn't even get a single pass.
the reference
So he
there,
might
I
be
wish
fine.
Conrad was here because I think Conrad best encapsulated the anger. And I'll let Robbie try to put his Conrad on here and go into that play last year because that pissed everyone off. Go on, Rob.
He made 3 tackles on the final drive. Sorry, go ahead, Robbie.
What was I talking about again? I didn't. I caught like the tail end of that, like putting on the Conrad hat.
The hit on Marcus McGill in the end
I don't
zone in
even.
last year's game.
Matt probably knows it more than me. Like I probably caught a few glimpses of it here and there, but
It was a
This
late
way, we
hit.
got
It should have been an ejection, and it wasn't. And
It should
the
have
guy
been more.
made-
It should have been an
tackles on the
ejection
next
in the
drive.
next game.
Yeah, it should have. But that's fine, whatever. But the guy made 3 tackles on the last few pivotal drives after that when we had the momentum. Like, I think we had a 3rd down play that he made a tackle on somebody short, and it's like you shouldn't be in the game right now. And it wasn't even like a borderline thing. It was a helmet-to-helmet hit, 3 yards deep into the end zone on a 2-point conversion.
Yeah, after the play was done, and the play was done.
I mean, Marcus McGill had stood up straight because he was done running hard, and
Yep.
there was not even a flag, if I remember correctly. Like,
I honestly don't remember if that play was flagged or not.
I really don't think it was, but
I don't
remember.
think it was flagged. It would have been an ejection. I don't think if you flagged it, you can do anything but kick the guy out.
Yeah, there's only one other play in recent years in UB athletic history that has annoyed me as much for being just so dangerous and bad. And in that play, I decided not to go and look up the person's name and call them out and write mean things about them, attach their name. But in this fellow, I have always wanted to, and I haven't had the chance. And
What's the other play?
Laura Dougal getting upended in her freshman year at Niagara by their forward number 8,
Who?
whose name our soccer goalie, women's soccer.
No, who? Who?
Oh, yeah, gotcha. Sorry.
even though we can't technically
No, it's
do
not
that
who.
I'm awake.
It's screw Niagara.
Yeah, it's screw Niagara.
Yeah, it's back to that.
Uh,
Someone says Niagara, you go screw Niagara. Right? That's just the way it goes.
But then you end up in this weird recursive screw Niagara, screw Niagara.
I'm not seeing the
You'll never
problem.
get it.
I mean,
No, yeah. At least Niagara doesn't.
Well, those are good dying words, so I'll go with it.
yeah. So Kevin, you've been kind of quiet. Did you catch last year's game?
I was there for the first half. I didn't really feel a lot of energy in the game. No one was really
it's one of
there,
those.
so a lot of people did at halftime. So I didn't feel good, so it just wasn't enough time for me.
So you saw what James Butler did to the Bulls defense last year.
Yeah, the running back.
Yeah.
Park.
I mean, that whole game turned
Yeah,
out
solid.
2 or 3 long runs.
Yeah, they had him like backed in the five or something, and all of a sudden he's down the field and he scored.
Yeah.
And that was kind of
That was
when
in
I
the
was
second
sick of
quarter.
watching.
Mhm.
Yep, that was when I was like frustrated with the team.
Now he torched Buffalo for 177 yards. They also have Matt, help me out. Who is the guy from Penn State?
Hoffer?
Akil Lynch.
Oh, from Akil Lynch. Sorry.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have Akil Lynch, who is a big star for them, but he is questionable this week, I believe. I don't know if he's probable or questionable with a head injury or something.
Yeah, he's
So
a friend.
we'll
He's
probably
going,
have to deal with. Yeah, we'll probably have to deal with James Butler. He's a 5'9" guy, big, bulky runner, and 5'9", 210 pounds. He's kind of a cannonball if he gets moving, and the problem our defense made 1 or 2 times last year is they let him get moving north-south, and he went 95 yards, kind of like Kevin said. I mean,
he chased Kevin right out of the stadium.
Yeah.
yeah, he did.
Oh, that
But
was
Kevin
UMass.
wasn't alone. Kevin was swept up by a wave, and people are like, "Ah, crap."
Yeah.
Robbie put a great piece on Bull Run on some of the big names from Nevada to look out for this week. I recommend going to read it to kind of familiarize yourself before we get into the game. Suffice to say, I share the concern that the running game is going to kind of be the key. If we can lock down whoever they have in the running game, I think UB has a puncher's chance in this game. If we let them roll off 2 or 3, 50-plus yard runs, I don't care if we win the turnover battle. I don't think we win the game. You guys kind of agree with that? I mean, what would you say is the most important thing for UB coming into this game?
Start
I
Tyree.
want to hashtag free Tyree.
I don't
Team
actually know, but
Tyree.
it's important. I think.
Free Tyree.
I don't want to seem like we're anti-Grant here. Like I said, I'm sure he is a ton better than he showed at Albany.
Yes.
And if he were a freshman or a sophomore or even a junior, like if he had 2 years of, I could see saying, yeah, let's play this out and see how this goes. I'm basically on Team Tyree because I'm thinking about the next several years of this program.
Yeah. I will say I have been around and so on Bull Run devoting so much time that I forget that maybe people don't remember that our greatest motivation is that we will never say that someone's not good enough to be a bull. We'll never say, we'll never go at the student athlete and say they're not good enough.
I can't stand.
Who knows? Grant might come out
against
and just
players.
be on fire. He might be.
Yeah.
He might
maybe,
have. We talked about where was a coaching staff lax going at Albany. What do you think a Big 12 quarterback was thinking?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, and this is the guy who coached against. Yeah, this is the guy who won 3 or 4 straight games against Big 12 defenses. That's not easily done. He's way better than he showed, and maybe he comes out, Saturday just ready to just light the world on fire because he's pissed, and that would be a good thing because that's kind of what was lacking. I think Rob mentioned it and Kevin mentioned it. It was the energy lacking that first few drives. It just kind of felt like paint by numbers.
So this is what I had to say about the energy. This is the thing I've had one of the biggest problems about Lance Leipold since he came here. For the last 4 games now, going back to next season as well, the team just did not come out with energy whatsoever. So 4 games ago was Northern Illinois. They smacked us in the first half, and they went into the half 28-3. We did come back, and it was a 1-touchdown score eventually, but that's so hard to come back from and win. And then the game after that was Akron, and we got thumped there. And then UMass was just awful. UMass was they were running around, talking smack with each other, and just having a good old time while they put a beat down on us in the snow. And this Albany game, Grant goes out, he throws the interception, and then he does nothing in the next drive.
Did it snow for UMass, or did I sit through some miserable sleet rain?
Well, there was snow before.
Oh,
there was
I very clearly remember being in rain for a UMass game. Maybe it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago now.
Rain. I would agree with that.
It was rain 2 years ago in Buffalo.
Okay, that's the game I was at. Was the one in Buffalo. Okay.
It was just freezing cold.
That's when they took shot at Alex Newts. I'm sorry, nuts.
No, I was at the one last year because that was the first
Yeah, no,
time we
you
ever
were.
lost to UMass.
Yeah, you were
Yeah,
there
last
last
year
year,
was
and it was like a sleet rain. I agree with you,
Yeah.
but it
Okay.
was freezing cold the entire time,
Yeah, it wasn't a fun
and
game.
and you have the
Only
entire
won
line of
9 months
UB
ago.
football players just standing there in awe of at what UMass is crushing them, and so it's just I'm getting a little fed up about the fact that we just come out flat-footed in every game.
Well, someone, and I don't know who it was, would talk about how there are two kinds of coaches: the coaches who are just cerebral, and the coaches who are really like, I
It was Red
quit.
Dad 42.
Who was that?
Red Dad 42 in our comments.
Yeah, and Leipold is definitely the thinker, and Conrad has said in the past. Excuse me, I'm fighting a wicked cold. Conrad has said in the past, if you're one type of coach, then your coordinator, your second command has to be the other kind of coach. If you're like the nice guy coach, you need a coordinator who's going to be a hard ass, right? If you're a hard ass coach, you need a coordinator who's going to be a nice guy. So again, we fall to if Lance Leipold wants to be cerebral and thoughtful and calm, that's fine, but he needs someone on his staff to get those guys ready to run through a wall. Even the foam brick wall of Eastern Michigan would be fine. When it comes to game day. I mean, Kevin, what do you think about that? What do you think about Lance Leipold's disposition and the team and what they've looked like, coming out of the tunnel?
I think if there's ever a time for him to show that kind of fire in the team, it's this week. I mean, they had the 2 weeks. They treated Albany like practice. I'm sorry, they did. That was their mantra. They kept saying that. So if there's ever a time for them to want to show the fire and to do it, I think this is the game. They had so many slow starts that maybe he got to put on his tough guy pants, get them all hyped up, and let's see the energy. I mean, we can't come out flat. If we come out flat, all the viewers that are going to be watching it are going to turn off. No one's going to be excited. It's going to be miserable. So he needs to get them fired up. So now it's his time to show that he can do it.
So you need the you can do it guy.
Yeah, he needs something. Otherwise, this team is going to be successful. They're missing that spark. We talked about it on True Blue. When they all came and high-fived us, the players and stuff before the game, yeah, it took a while, but even when they went through that high-five line pregame where they're
energy for that. You're right.
they just nothing. You didn't see any kind of fight in their eyes.
Okay, that's sad.
Do they still run the flag out of the tunnel and deliver to True Blue?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they did.
Because the guy who first did that, Dane Robinson, was just amazing at like coming out of the tunnel. He looked like he was running to True Blue, like True Blue was his lost dog that had made it home from like they lost him in the mountains like 5 years prior. He like ran for the railing like there was nothing else in the world. And even if it's only one guy, like just get one guy on the team who will always get hyped up, who will come and treat the environment like it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to him. Like you only need one to do it, and it could be Leipold, it could be another player on the team. Dane Robinson was not, he might have been a captain, but he was not a star on that team. He was injured for the big games because he was at the game watch. He was at the game watch against Bowling Green at Santora's because I talked to people who were at that game watch and were with him. Just get one guy who treats the entire process and environment like it's the greatest thing in the world, and that lifts everyone up. And that's what was so great about those early years of True Blue was, honest to God, Dane Robinson being the guy delivering the flag and treating it like there was nothing he wanted to do but run as fast as he possibly could with that flag to True Blue. And that people who weren't in the True Blue section saw it, and these guys are psyched to take the field because Dane Robinson's running like a rabid dog. Like, that's maybe not the best comparison. But, like, that's the type of thing that I'm thinking of that I feel like you guys are calling for.
Yeah, I mean, look at the basketball team. No matter what the outcome, they always come over. They're always excited. They're interacting with us. This team, there feels like they connect with the students and the players and stuff. You see it around campus. Like this disconnect between them.
But Kevin, you're right. Someone needs to step up. Kevin and Matt, you're right. Someone needs to step up and kind of be the energy guy. And you don't need to be the star. I mean, we can all point to Dane Robinson, a lot of other players who have been backups, who have been out there, the ones pumping people up on the sideline, or you know, it's funny. Leo Mack was kind of a quiet guy on the sideline. We had other guys during his tenure who were the ones running around the sidelines, getting people, ready to go out there and knock heads. So it is one of the things I've seen. I don't remember the Jeff Quinn years as having particularly good starts to games. So
Yeah, but when they came out for that Baylor game, even though we got stopped, what was it, 61-21 or something like that?
Yeah.
Like, they came out with energy. Like, they were ready to play. Things didn't go well in that game, but, like, that was the difference between Quinn and Leipold so far.
I just remember a lot of slow starts in Jeff Quinn's tenure. A lot of we used to talk about how, like, Buffalo couldn't score a touchdown in the first quarter, just couldn't.
Yep.
And we're lucky if they scored a touchdown in the first half. That was a hallmark of the Jeff Quinn era. Was
even that
we'll
2009
hang in there long enough for our offense eventually to show up in the second half.
Yeah. Even that 2013 season, the whole joke, I mean, it wasn't a joke, and it might have been a viable strategy, was Brandon Oliver needed 20 carries in the first half to wear them down so that in the second half he'd start to pick up 11 yards a carry. We were joking about how Brandon Oliver needed 40 carries a game to get his Mario life. And, like, but I mean, what we were tied like 0-0 or 7-7 with Eastern Michigan, and we ended up beating them by 30.
Yeah.
That season, like that was a very typical game at the time.
Yeah, that was. There were back-to-back weeks like that where it was, and that's why we all thought we'd win the Bowling Green game that year, because we were slightly ahead coming out of the half. Like, okay, this is when Brandon Oliver finally comes over and starts to crush people's skull with his bare hands as he runs, and it just didn't. Bowling Green had a better strategy than we did, and just didn't work out.
Yeah.
Good times, man.
But I do agree with Robbie that Baylor game, the team came out. We had one of those perfectly executed passes to a wide receiver that we always seem to pull out against Power 5 teams that was dropped along the sideline.
Yep.
And like,
Was that
but
McGill?
that was a play.
My man
McGill.
Marcus McGill.
But before him in Pitt, it was Ed Young years ago. And that happens. Actually,
that was twice. That was twice in that game.
But like, and Quinn in the post game was saying, "Boy, we had that play drawn up. We had it. We were psyched. We would have blown the roof off. Would it have won us the game? No, but it would have gotten us off on a great tone." And like, Robbie's right. They came out and had that, and Quinn was right at the time. And honestly, that was the moment that I liked Quinn more than any other time, was when he came out and said that, because I thought he was right on and he gave a very fair idea. And like, that's the type of stuff that, be willing to go for the big play. Don't.
I bought what Quinn was selling for a long time. Actually, yes and no.
I never did.
I don't remember.
I'm an optimist. Like, I shouldn't say I'm an optimist. I always want wins, and I want to believe we can win. I never bought it. When I bought it until his first game, I was all excited about the no huddle, and then when the no huddle turned out to be don't huddle, but just stop and pause at the line of scrimmage and get your play called, then I was no.
I think he lost me with the Wild Bull.
Alex Dennison.
No, that wasn't Dennison the first time. The Wild Bull was first run by who was the receiver?
You sure?
Because Dennison had been that was like year we went through 4 quarterbacks. It was. Oh, it's gonna kill me. I'll have to go look it up. The Wild Bull was initially run by a different receiver, and it was a Quinnism, and he brought it out against Temple in the first series, and it was just a miserable failure. So while I go look that up, because I need to know now, while I go look that up, I'm going to hand this over to I got a bigger question outside of the scope of the Nevada game. We talked about kind of the chaos in the MAC, Kent losing, Miami losing, Bowling Green almost losing, all the FCS teams. Ohio's looking good. Akron struggled too, if I remember right, against an FCS team. They ended up winning pretty big against VMI, but I think going into the fourth quarter they were only up a score. Is the MAC East way more open than we thought it was? Matt?
I think it's more open than we thought it is. I don't think it's open to us. I do think it's open. I think right now it's Ohio's to lose. I got to say, I really think that Bowling Green losing by 67 points to Ohio State. I don't care that it's Ohio State. Losing by 67 points to them is the second worst loss the MAC East has so far this season, the worst being Albany. That said, I do think it's wide open after basically Ohio right now, and I don't think it's wide open to us. I think we stand a really good shot of messing with Miami and Kent, and after that, I don't know what we do with Ohio and Bowling Green and Akron. I don't know. But I think it's open to Ohio and Akron in a way I wouldn't have expected last week, but I don't think it's open to us.
I think Kent State's going to be a big dark horse here. I think they're 0-2 right now. But like they returned a lot more key pieces to their defense than I think people give them credit to. And I think their defense is going to be really strong this year. And that's going to be a tough game for MAC Homecoming.
Kevin.
I'm still looking stuff up.
All right, I'll go then. Yeah, I mean, it's open. Like Matt said, for us, I don't know if it's open for us. Talk to me next week after we play Nevada. But there's a lot of chaos in the conference. Ohio beating Kansas is huge for them. Granted, Kansas is probably the worst Power 5 team. I still think it's big that they beat them. So the MAC East will be fun to watch this year, just maybe not fun from our perspective.
I don't know. It seems to me that, if you only have one team who's the favorite, it's not too hard to knock them over. And by the way, it was 2010, and it was Terrell Jackson.
Terrell Jackson
led the game off with the Wild Bull formation against Temple, and we lost 42-0.
I was going to ask if that was the
John's first game.
What?
That was John's first game.
Wasn't it? Mm-hmm.
That was John's first game. Yep.
So he saw the Wild Bull in his first game.
Now, when Zordich took over the Wild Bull in the following years, it actually worked pretty well. When Zordich was a tight end and would come in and run that formation, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But that just showed how desperate Jeff Quinn was. We had Jerry Davis, who started the season as a starter, was playing terrible. Alex Zordich had his hand at quarterback and was playing terrible. So that was we're going to throw Terrell Jackson in there in the Wild Bull, and that went terribly. And that's why Greg Forrest didn't survive a year at Buffalo. Jeff Quinn kind of threw his old coaching buddy to the Wolves after that season. So that was all his fault. Lance Leipold, I think, is not going to do that. He's not that kind of guy. More is the pity, because I think that we definitely, if we have a really bad season this year, we do need some coaching changes. Maybe not a head coach, but at least a philosophy change. All right, now is the part where we pick this game, and I have not got my brew peg yet, and so this will be my official brew peg entry, Matt.
Okay.
But we'll let Robbie go first, because I'm gonna try to pull a mini brand here and see what you guys are picking before I pick. So Rob, what do you got for the game?
Okay, I'm gonna be an optimist, and I'm gonna give the best case scenario as my brew peg pick this week. So we're gonna win 24-19. Over Nevada.
24?
That's going to be a Jordan Johnson rushing touchdown. We're going to actually use him for a little bit. And then pass to Marcus McGill. And Nevada's going to lose on a game-ending interception. A pass from Jackson.
A pass from Jackson to Marcus McGill. Okay. That's 14.
That's 3 touchdowns. So there would be a field goal in there.
I heard the rushing touchdown to Johnson and a Jackson and McGill reception.
And then Jackson's going to
pass. Oh, okay.
He's going to make up for the fumble last week.
All right, Kevin.
All right, I'm less of an optimist. I have us losing 24-17. I didn't really think through my scoring, but I'm going to go and say Grant's going to get us a field goal. I believe in him. I think he'll get us some points. Just get us in the end zone right now. No disrespect to him. I just don't think he has that poise with this team yet.
All right, Matt.
All right. Well, if you're Tim, thinking of putting your Dave Brand hat on and waiting for everyone else to go. I think I might put on my Conrad Monstiller hat and go with some numbers here. Um, Albany scored 8 more points than they did last season, and UB scored many fewer points than they did last season.
I
And
don't like where this is going.
if I do the same with Nevada and we give them 8 more points, that gives Nevada 32, which feels about right to me. And if we go with many fewer, I'm really saying many fewer because I can't do 35 less than 21 and still give a number that UB football can actually achieve in a football game. So if I go many fewer and then say that we just have to score 1 touchdown, I'm going 32. Maybe I just added 8 to 24 and got 31, but I meant 32. 32 to 10. And I think that touchdown is a passing touchdown, but I think it's a Jordan Johnson pop pass to Mason Schreck out of the old Quinn playbook. I don't think it comes
Jordan
from either
Johnson
of the
takes
quarterbacks. So
All
I've got
right.
32 to 10.
Hey, he did get a touchdown pass last year, and I think that was Northern Illinois.
I didn't watch Northern Illinois game.
Let me look.
Yeah, that was,
I must-
yeah,
I'm
no, I
I must have
wasn't.
had choir rehearsal, but I
Wasn't
didn't watch
you,
it.
but there was one. Yeah, that worked. All right,
Jordan-
I was gonna do Dave Brain here, but you guys have given me nothing to work with at all. So I've been running the numbers in my head as you pick them here. I have no clue where I'd be. So I'm gonna say this. I think Grant Rohak comes out with a chip on his shoulder. He comes out fired up, and I think he looks like a proper Big 12 quarterback in this game. I think he has a huge game. I'm gonna say Buffalo wins 31-17.
Oof.
I think Rohak throws for 3 touchdowns.
I'll
And
forgive
I think-
Albany if that happens.
You're gonna what?
I'll forgive the
You'll
Albany
forgive
game if that happens.
I won't forgive Albany, but I'll forgive the choice not to start Jackson.
Yep.
But yeah, so
I can
that's what I'm
agree
gonna
with
say. What did I say? 31-17 or 35-17?
You said
31.
31.
31-17. Jordan Johnson rushing touchdown, 3 TDs from Rohak, and a nice field goal just for special measure there. I think he's going to come out on fire, and I honestly, if he does and he's firing on all cylinders, I don't see Leipold changing quarterbacks in the middle of the game. I think he's proven he believes that Rohak is a guy who can win games for us this year, and that's my pick. So someone had to stand behind Grant here, and I'll do it. I'm not gonna win Brew Peg anyways. What do I care?
I gave him a.
Yeah, you did, and we always do support the athletes, because they are doing all the workload of the students, plus what equates to basically a job to pay for college, and people shouldn't forget that when they say they go to college for free. No, I used to run around the track at Alumni Arena at 5 in the morning, and there was always a very tired-looking group of big men trying to keep up with me that were on the football team. So. The receivers, of course, blew past me. The linemen, not so much.
That's an athletic achievement, being faster than
Being faster than you be a lineman in the mid-'90s? Not really. The receivers were faster than me at my peak, of course. I'd take them outside, do 10 miles against them, then I might have had a shot, maybe. But not today. Today they toast me. I wouldn't last. All right. So
I have an update on Jordan Johnson.
all right, let's hear the update. Hopefully it's a good one.
This is the accurate game. Jordan Johnson has his first 100-yard game of his career. Averaged 6 yards a carry, and he also threw a 33-yard touchdown pass to Matt Weiser.
Yeah, that's the pass that's coming this year. That's what I'm telling you. That's it. It's that pop pass.
6 yards per carry.
Yep. I mean,
Good.
just freaking run him. And when he picks up 15 yards and 3 carries, keep running him.
Yeah. I mean,
And I generally, when it comes to play calling, honestly, I try not to be too disgusted because there are a lot of things about football that I don't know. that men who are college football coaches do know, and I understand that. But
Mm-hmm.
I really think honestly dating back to last year's Nevada game, he doesn't get enough work when he's hot. And it's why are you going away from the hot hand? It happened last year when Johnson would rush for 30 yards in a drive, and then Anthony Taylor would come out for the next 2 drives. And I just don't get it.
My first
there are
memory.
I think you have to remember Brandon Oliver was kind of an anomaly. You can't run a guy 30, 40 yards, 30, 40 carries a game. You can't
But you can run him 18 instead of 12.
That's true. But that's one series, really.
I thought the disparity between the two was too great to keep sticking with at a time. And it wasn't just Taylor. It was all of a sudden we're down by 9 points at the beginning of the third quarter and we're going pass happy that early. And these are things that, again, I'm willing to concede that men who are D1 football coaches and play callers know more than me. But I would really like for someone, if I'm way off base, to point me to logic that tells me why I'm off base, because I don't understand it otherwise.
I never get the pass happy part. You're right. You're down by 9. You got a whole half. I never get that part because you score 1 touchdown, it's a whole new game. I do understand if you've run it 3 or 4 times for 5 yards a click, you might want to say, okay, now it's the time to try something neat to see if we can suck them in on a draw and throw the ball deep downfield because you have that opportunity. It's kind of like if you get a 2nd and 1, what do? You throw the ball long because it's 2nd and 1. I do see the logic in that. I don't see the logic in going pass happy, and I think UB did that a lot last year, where we get down by a little bit more than 1 score, and all of a sudden we run a completely different offense. And it's part of the symptom of this team not having an identity. And I still don't know what this team's identity is in offense. Defense, our identity was bend but don't break, and punch them in the mouth as often as you can, and it worked for our defense last year.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like during the Tepper years, we didn't have a defensive identity. I mean, we had Khalil Mack and Steven Means, and we would drop them off into pass protection. Our identity should have been run for your life, quarterback. We are coming to get you, and it wasn't. Now we have an offense that doesn't really have an identity. We want to, and including even the quarterbacks. The 2 quarterbacks we're choosing between are vastly different quarterbacks. Tyree Jackson and Grant Roach don't play the same game. Philosophically, what game do you like more between the 2? I mean, let's put aside who's, quote, better because they're different quarterbacks. But, Kevin, if you had to pick between a guy like Tyree or a guy like Grant, like more of a pocket passer or a guy who's more dual threat, what do you want to see as a fan?
I'm a dual threat guy. I think it's a more exciting style to watch overall. When I play Madden, I scramble. I mean, I think it's just what people like. People like when the quarterback can do it all. Everybody knows the quarterback's name. I mean, I think people want to see a dual threat just because it's a more exciting game to watch. Football can drag at points, I'm not going to lie. Take off with 30, 40 yards every time. That's exciting, and that's what the fans, I think, want to see, at least from my viewpoint.
My wife would agree. Football can drag at times. I famously nearly fell asleep several times during the Stony Brook game a few years back. And I say famously as in no one knew until now.
Still, basketball.
You know what is famous though, Tim? When you got attacked by a cat in your garage.
I got attacked by a cat. That is famous.
We tweeted out, if you want to hear the story of how Tim got attacked by a cat, tune in now, and our viewership jumped to 17 people, which at the time was an all-time record for Bowls and Beers.
It was, but that record was shattered when we played Baylor.
Yes, it was.
And we were doing awesome. We had 150 people on there until Matt said, and now we're done talking about Baylor. And all of a sudden it went from 150 down to like 12. Thank you, Matt.
To be fair, we were done talking about Baylor. I didn't lie.
We could have mentioned him at the end of the show. We got into the Olympic. It was the Olympic rundown we used to do before. Matt and John do a great Olympic rundown every Sunday. If you don't tune in to watch it. But back before that existed, they used to use the last 10 minutes of this show, and it was like, wow, we have hundreds of eyes. I mean, we were well over 100 viewers. And Matt said, okay, now we're doing the Olympic stuff. We're done talking about Baylor football. And it went down to like 5. I think even half the Buffalo fans left.
I didn't even say we're done talking about Baylor football. I said if you're not interested in this, tune out now.
Which you never say.
I know. I'm
That's
not.
That's like attacking the electorate in an election. You just don't do it.
Yeah. Oh well. I like pocket passers for what it's worth.
Do you?
I like.
I feel similar.
I like the image of a statuesque QB standing there and picking a defense apart because he's smarter than the defense and he knows everything about where his receivers are going to be. And he does. I mean, this is granted. You have a really good one who doesn't stare his receivers down and knows where his receivers are going to be and can just stand there and all of a sudden turn his body 60 degrees and throw pinpoint to a guy because their timing's that good. He knows the defense that good. He knows his routes that good. That's the type of quarterback that it's like when a really good pitcher in baseball is just totally in control of the game, and or even not even a starter, but someone like those relievers who have like 2 pitches, and you know exactly what's coming and you can't hit it because they're that good and that in control. That's the aura I get from a pro pocket passer, and that's what I love to watch. I like watching people run around and these are exciting plays, but I love the precision and just the precision, the control that you have when you just stand there and say, I'm not going to move and I'm going to carve you to shreds.
Yeah, see, I think when you have a pocket passer, you don't have a dual threat. You have like 5 threats because he turns every single back in the field into someone who can torch you. And
again, if he's good.
I remember Jim Kelly. I grew up on Jim Kelly, who could not run. Watching Jim Kelly run was like watching Joe Licata run. It was not a beautiful thing. But he would sit there and he'd turn guys you'd never even heard of into 100-yard receivers every other. And I'm not talking Andre Reed, who was a legitimate All-Star and Hall of Famer. I mean, there's not a receiver that came to Buffalo or even a running back who wasn't a big receiving threat because Jim Kelly could find you. There are other quarterbacks in the AFC East that do that now, who I won't mention because I hate their teams. But they do kind of the same thing. Robbie,
I know
we haven't
Geno
heard from you
Smith is
on the great
really
quarterback
a
today.
threat.
So we have Kevin likes the dual threat. Matt and I are both old fogies that like the traditional pocket passers, even though the forward pass is kind of an evil thing from way back for us old guys. So what do you think?
If I'm watching an NFL team, I would rather it be a pocket passer because your talent in the offensive and defensive line is going to be much stronger because it's pro talent. And it's going to be harder to exploit that as a quarterback trying to run. Now, in college, there's going to be a lot more weaknesses because not all of these guys are super good. I feel like a dual threat is better in college for that reason. And, when when we go against a weak defensive line, sometime in conference player, I think Tyree Jackson's just going to wreak havoc on it. Just, by, pulling in some keepers.
Yeah, I will say this. I love having.
I think we should. I think that's the smartest thing that's been said tonight.
Well, it's not hard. We set a low bar here, and we let Robbie jump right on over it. I do love having a read option with an option. I think I said this after the Albany game, and what made me really excited was I've watched Buffalo try to run the read option with Zordich, who was a runner, and Licata, who was a runner. And even
Rohak here and there.
Yeah, even Rohak's athletic, but he's not dynamic. And it was the first time since maybe Chaz Anderson that I've seen a guy tuck the ball away and be dangerous with it. And I'll say this: Tyree Jackson looks like a lot more dangerous runner than Chaz Anderson ever was. And it's fun.
Give us a weak defensive line. I think Tyree's just going to keep on trucking through it. I think we would see a lot more Wildcat in that case.
Wild Bull.
Yeah,
Wild Bull.
That's what everyone does now. They all call the Wild whatever their team. I mean, I've heard other teams do it. I think Jeff Quinn was kind of a latcher on to trends.
Oh,
all right. Really? He rebranded the Cincinnati playbook for our offense without considering the personnel? No, he didn't do that. All right, let's jump to sign off. We're getting close to our hour here, and she's getting close to her bedtime.
Tessa's here.
Yeah,
how long
yeah.
has Tessa been here?
Yeah, Tessa's here.
For how long have I not noticed her?
I've had it for about 5 minutes.
Okay, that's a lot of time for me not to notice though.
It's a long time not to notice I'm holding a baby. I'll give you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Matt's had a rough week, so we gotta forgive Matt here.
I think a lot of us have had rough weeks.
Oh gosh, I can't. I have the marathon in 3 weeks. This is supposed to be my intense workout week, the hardest workout I've had before the marathon. And I have this cold I can't get rid of, and my foot is tweaked, so I haven't run in almost a week and a half now. Which these guys follow me on Facebook. They see I'm usually running 4 or 5 miles a day, and I don't know how my body's going to react when I try to get it out there tomorrow night to go run 10 miles. We'll see. Everyone laughs when I run 10 miles. That's what everyone else does because I lumber. I really don't run anymore. It's a privilege of age. All right, let's go to sign off. I'm gonna let Kevin go first because Kevin, you got to be more. You got to jump in there and talk more. We're talking a bunch, so I'm gonna let you go first.
All right, I'm going to learn how to talk more, but my shout out's going to be to the Oklahoma State newspaper that said Central Michigan should give them the game. I didn't do it type, but I wanted it. I didn't have anything. I'm taking it. Anywho, saying that they should forfeit the game or give them the game because the play shouldn't happen is dumb. I mean, your team still didn't stop the Hail Mary play. Could have just tackled them and ended it right there. So, State, I'd retract that article because it just makes you guys look like really bad losers.
Damn it. I'm so mad at you right now. I'm so mad at you right now. I should have written it down. Robbie, you're up.
So Athletics released their second wave of crowdfunding for through Blue and White today. And I was just kind of browsing through it, I'm like, okay, what are they trying to buy and stuff? It's all about like improving facilities and some other cool stuff. And then I click on women's basketball, and there's one paragraph, and it's literally just about snow boots. The athletics department can't afford to give snow boots to their athletes so that their feet don't freeze or whatever. And I'm just sitting here like, this is ridiculous. Shout out to UB Athletics for that. Of all the things that you can't buy just some cheap snow boots or something. I think it's the first time I gave a serious donation to the athletics department.
Well, I'm going to give a shout out to you then, because my awesome shout out got taken away. Damn it! Don't let Kevin go first again. Matt, you're up.
I have not prepared a shout out. I do think that there is merit. This is not my shout out. I'm going to talk for a minute and then I'll think of a shout out while I say it. I do think there's merit to the idea that like in this situation, like you could take that game away from Central Michigan. I understand they won't. I understand why they won't. But some people are saying, well, you can't pick up a penalty from the middle of the second quarter, and I'm like, no, you can't. But you can pick up a play that happened after the game legally ended. Like, what happens if an umpire in baseball
they didn't take away that game from Duke when they beat Miami off of all those terrible penalties in that last punt return?
But again, I still see that as different because that was them allowing a play to go longer, and this was by rule the game ended after that intentional grounding, and instead everyone just stayed out and played another play. It would be like if with a runner on third base.
The game ain't over till the ref says it's over.
I understand that, and I understand that it's not going to change. I just think that if there was ever a situation where it would, like, this is to me is the equivalent of a team getting 4 outs in the bottom of the ninth just because the umpires decided to stay out there and say, well, we might as well play longer. Anyway, that's not my shout out.
I read a great comment. Man. I'm going to cut you off just for 1 second, and then you can do your shout out if you want. But hear what I have to say. A great comment on that article, which I was going to use as my shout out, where someone said the intent of that rule was to prevent an offense. It was to prevent a. It was to prevent an offense from extending a game by penalty. That was the intent of the rule, right? What they never considered was the offense wanting to end the game with a penalty because they had no other options. So it was, I think, the spirit of the rule was to prevent a team from just chucking the ball out to end the game and get out of there with a win. and it was just written poorly. And I think that is why both the MAC officiating crew and the Big 12 crew screwed it up, because they were reading the intent of that rule, and they were wrong. They've been disciplined, but I think you watch it. That rule is going to change in the offseason.
Yeah. I have never understood why teams in that scenario haven't just, I mean, one, Oklahoma State could have just run backwards and taken the safety, just turn around and sprint for 60 yards. One.
Or just go to the
two,
one and go to one knee.
I've never understood why you don't just tell your quarterback to run around and kill time and then bomb it as far as he can down the field beyond everyone, you know? And so, whatever. My shout-out goes to, John's not here, so I guess I'll cover UB Wrestling today. UB Wrestling, Coach John Stutzman, we've been hyping them up for a couple of years now because they've clearly been on the rise. This year's looking to be a really strong year for them, a build on last year, which was the strongest year in a while. But Stutzman is really doing things other than just recruiting guys and coaching them well. They ran a clinic today with Jordan Burroughs, who is a gold medalist for the United States in freestyle wrestling in 2012, multiple-time world champion. He came in for a clinic. It was announced with 6 days' notice, and they had over 100 high school wrestlers join. Burroughs and four-time All-American Tyler Graff are going to be regular visitors into the training room this year. These are the types of things beyond recruiting and strong coaching that can really strengthen a program. If even two guys from those 100 kids from all over upstate New York who came to learn from a gold medalist make their way to UB and end up winning matches 5-6 years down the line, this is a huge success. I'm so impressed not only that they put it together, but that they did it in a week and got over. You know, they had to book a different room because they got such overwhelming turnout. So kudos to assistant coach Harry Turner who put it together. Kudos to Stutzman for finding ways to make his program better anywhere there's an opportunity, and really looking forward to wrestling season getting started this year.
And not to get too deep down the Olympic rabbit hole here, I'll leave that for Matt and Rob to do on Sunday. But if you don't know, the MAC is a very competitive wrestling conference. If wrestling conferences had power designations, the MAC would be one of the power conferences in wrestling. We have several schools who are very strong year in and year out. We have affiliate members. Missouri is strong. You guys, Matt, you can name them all better than me, but to compete in the MAC is equivalent to competing in a Power 5 conference in football. So it's a big challenge for UB to get better. Stuff has not shown up in the record, but for a couple of years they have been getting better and better. And then I'm going to skip over to my shout out. Who can tell me who Mike Gundy is?
I'm a man. I'm 40. Sorry, I'm not 40, but Mike Gundy once was.
Okay. All right, so my shout-out goes to Mike Gundy, who is the Oklahoma State head coach, because he has given me so much ammunition to hate Oklahoma State this week. It's awesome. The article is out there, which Kevin talked about, but I kind of expect that from fan publications. Give us this game, show your integrity. What I don't expect is for a Power 5 coach to go on television and say, we just shouldn't allow group of 5 teams to bring their officiating crews in here. If you won't use our crews, who are way better than your crews, then we won't play you. And he says that as if we don't have a history of Power 5 conference coaches Power 5 conference officials making just horrendous mistakes. And I'll be getting into this on a Blue Bowl Talks later in the week probably. But I always love to watch someone who is in a power conference have a hissy fit over something they benefited from at one point when, for example, the Big 12 officiating crews basically gave Oklahoma State a win over Texas a few years ago with a lot of shoddy play calls. He wasn't calling for any kind of changes then. So thank you for reaffirming my faith in the entitled P5 coaches bitching about whatever they can. Forget Daddy said that. All right.
This isn't a children's show. That should be there.
This is Baby Bull Run. All right. So we're going to sign off. We ran just a few minutes over this week. Thank you for being patient with our late start and our slightly over 1 hour run. On behalf of Matt and Kevin and Rob, this is Tim from Bull Run. We will see you guys next week.